Morning Joe, they kind of touch upon this subject. The headline is going to say, Joe Biden does something about the anti-Semitic protests around the world. And then they cover a news article that talks about the world is becoming anti-Semitic because they're talking about the worldwide protests. So that's how they're labeling it. They just try to hit you emotionally. Let's listen.
Sooner.
This whole eerie feeling just took over my heart. Heart sank.
It's NBC's Gabe Gutierrez reporting. Willie, we've been talking about it for some time, and obviously talked about our concern.
When I put on my earpiece,
not
it does
only
that.
Jewish students but Muslim students. Right now, the uptick in anti-Semitism worldwide, just off the charts. Whether you're in Russia, whether you're in London, I mean, you have Jews in London now who are afraid to show any signs of their faith because they're so targeted. And we talked about
Now, let's be clear. This is Nick. This is how, and I know you can hear, but this is how they're talking about worldwide protests. Because if you weren't privy to the conversation or to what's going on, you would not even understand that what they're talking about is protest. You would be envisioning like, damn, they're burning crosses, like something evil is going on. But this is the words they're using to describe the protest. So if you remember, one of the largest protests worldwide was in London.
Yep.
This is what he's referring to when he's saying people in London or Jews in London were so afraid. He's referring to that. Go ahead.
Also, what he is not telling his audience is a lot of these protests were led by anti-Zionist Jewish people. So
They always
how does
skip over that part.
How does that fit in your equation? How does the fact that Palestinian people are Semitic, how does that fit in your equation? You see how their equation all fucked up? You know what I mean? They just say stuff on corporate media. Deeply unserious. These protests are related to anti-Semitism. So people's unwillingness to stand by as babies get bombed is connected to their opinion on the Judaism faith. That's absurd. But they just say it. Serious, no pushback. This is corporate media. This is the news that many boomers get. You can make the argument that the rise of anti-Semitism come from Zionists like yourself who want to see the Semitic Palestinian people get slaughtered. But let's continue. There's gonna be a lot of talk. This one I can tell. There's gonna be something else.
Yeah, it's a lot.
College campuses.
It's a lot, Nick. It's
outrageous how, and I've heard from far too many people who have children on college campuses that Jewish kids, they've disappeared. A lot of them have disappeared, at times afraid to go out because the anti-Semitism on college campuses, this has always
like
been
Alex
a problem
Jones.
in America. It just has. Especially in the elite universities, anti-Semitism, we've talked about it. I've talked about it for the last 30 years. Anti-Semitism on college campuses, especially elite campuses, campuses like Columbia have been historically horrendous.
How is it any different than Laura Ingraham?
Now. The leaders have got to step.
How is it any different from what's that judge name? Judge Janine Pirro.
Janine Pirro, yeah.
How is it any different than Sean Andy? And I'm glad they're saying this because we're continuing to make this point that MSNBC, they're repeating the same thing that Fox News said. Remember what the dumbest person in independent media commentary said, Emma Vigeland? I think she we need to do RBN words one day because I would nominate her as the biggest of all the dumb left. Is Emma Vigeland. Emma Vigeland one time seriously said, she's like, these people that say there's no difference between MSNBC and Fox News, they're just trying to be sensational. Of course there's a difference between MSNBC and Fox News. That's what she said with her chest out, fam.
Yeah, I remember.
You know, here's one of the lead shows on MSNBC, the number one guy, one of the highest paid people on MSNBC, sounding just like Sean Hannity. Well, let's continue.
Bob, they've got to do something.
And they haven't, by and large. They've given mealy-mouthed responses to most of what we're seeing on these campuses. And you're right, it's not just the stuff we report.
So and I just want to point out, you see now they changed the title, White House taking steps to combat anti-Semitism at colleges. So this is the same topic that we were just talking about.
That we hear it anecdotally, all kinds, and it's not the veiled anti-Semitism we've become accustomed to and we understand has now just become kill the Jews, die Jews, just saying it out
What?
loud.
And the
On college
justification on
What are you talking about?
So I've been following this issue for quite some time. You gotta know how disgusting they are. And then if I were Jewish, the same way I'm upset with the Black Congressional Caucus and Democrats for bastardizing our struggle for racial justice, I would be furious if I was fucking Jewish, and a lot of them are. Because one thing they did even before this conflict was they would equate the criticism that AIPAC and Israel bought off United States politicians. They will say, oh, so you think Jews secretly run the world? You think Jews control all the money and buy everyone off? What are you, anti-Semite? I'm like, that's not what anyone is saying. We are literally saying that AIPAC buys our politicians and turn them to Zionists. So what he said was, before there was like this subtle anti-Semitism. That is what he's talking about, fam. Any criticism of Israel in any way, shape, or form, they turn into a criticism of Jewish people. And I remember before I was informed about this issue, I thought it was true too that people used to have this anti-Semitic conspiracy theory about how Jews control all the money.
I did
but
too.
no, that wasn't the argument that many people was making. The argument they was making, which is a fact, is that AIPAC and Israel buys all politicians. They have nothing to do with the Jewish people. But anyway, I know that's a long explanation, but I wanted to explain what he's saying there. Like that, even a subtle propaganda jab there. It's incredible. But let's continue. I'm sure I'm gonna have a lot to say about this thing.
Oh, it's a lot, Nick. It's a lot. Yeah. I was screaming at the thing when I watched it twice.
All over college campuses, all over. Yeah. The justification of shooting babies in cribs, beheading Israelis, burning grandmothers.
Nick, if you see, she almost broke there. she almost broke. She almost laughed like, come on, Joe. Come on, Joe. Come on, Joe. Don't say that again. Come on. Don't say that proven lie again. Because you know what, Nick? You know they haven't stopped saying cutting off babies' heads?
Yeah. And you know
they haven't stopped saying that?
CJ, you know none of their YouTube pages been demonetized. None of the Facebook, Instagram channels been pulled. Even though they've repeated this rank blatant lie that literally only the United States and UK believe this. Only the United States and UK media is going along with this. Everyone else in the entire world is like, didn't Israel say they was going to bomb that hospital? Didn't y'all give evacuation orders and then you guys bomb the hospital? Then you guys bomb the hospital after that? Like literally only people that believe this is it the dumbass United States and UK political system that are spreading this lie. Which shows how we said before, it's not about combating disinformation or misinformation. It's about monopolizing it. It's about they are the only ones who are able to have a narrative that they're shaping. But go ahead, CJ.
Just saying it out loud.
And the justification on college
watch Mika almost break, and then she catches herself.
Of shooting babies in cribs, beheading Israelis, burning grandmothers, just the worst things in the world. Right. And on college campuses, they have people chanting in Jews that this is what decolonization looks like.
And some of
they are not chanting in Jews.
Word. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, CJ. I ruined your moment. Sorry. But he said they were chanting at Jews. Who's at these protests looking at Jewish people like, you're responsible for this? I was at protest. CJ, you was at protest. Did that happen?
No.
And also, one more thing I'm saying before I apologize. But he repeats the lie that Palestinians beheaded babies, but it's quite literally a fact that Israel beheaded babies. And I want everyone to repeat this. Israel is the country that beheaded babies. What do you guys think happens when a baby is hit with a bomb? They are beheaded most of the time. And there have been countless instances of these. A lot of these pictures I can't look into, but they're like, hey, look, there's another baby that's been beheaded by Israel. So whenever you hear someone say Hamas and Palestinians are beheading babies, no, you tell them, no, the country that you support, who you won't condemn, have beheaded babies for years. You guys think the head stay attached to a baby when a bomb lands on it? But go ahead, CJ.
Yeah, and I do want to play this last 10 seconds one more time before I talk.
They have people chanting in Jews that this is what decolonization looks like.
And this is the fear, Nick.
Yep.
What he just said is the fear of imperialists, of the fear of colonialists. Is the fear is always the fear, Nick. What was the fear doing? It's an uprising from the natives. It's an uprising from the indigenous. It's the uprising from the people that you are torturing. Because why wouldn't that be a normal reaction? But this is how this is the fear that we're hearing about it. This is the fear. We're hearing the fear that, wow, this is what's going to look like if they take over back their land. It's that fear. And it almost gives them fuel as a Zionist to want to fight more, because is either me or them. Yeah. That's how they look at it. It's either me or them, and it's gonna be them, and it's tragic. But let's let it play on. There's a lot more to get to here.
And some of them professors, by the way, people who work for the universities. There's been this whole culture over the last 10, 15 years of emotional safety for students. Right. You're in a classroom, you hear an opinion you disagree with. You feel unsafe, and they go put you in a safe space with coloring books so you can take care of yourself.
They bubble wrap everybody except Jews.
Is this Fox News?
You can be okay with Jews getting slaughtered.
I don't understand what their point even saying.
They go, oh, no,
is this Newsmax? Like their assessment of college campuses is exactly like Newsmax. I told you guys I'm a college dropout, and I will concede I am in the Midwest. But how I hear right winger describe college is not what I've been through. Like you say, like that is absolutely not what I've been through at all. Meanwhile, let it continue. He sounds like the average Alex Jones boomer at this point. But Emma Vigeland don't see a difference.
The campus, right?
I mean, right. Yeah. So now you have actual safety being threatened of Jewish students at campuses across the country, and we're not seeing nearly enough done to protect them.
Nothing. I mean, we really aren't. It's the stories. The stories firsthand that I'm hearing, Rev, are outrageous. And I want to commend you.
Let's bring in the black guy.
Your friendship and your relationship with Jonathan Greenblatt and the ADL. And man, you were making good trouble this weekend in Tallahassee. And you delivered a powerful sermon to some college students. Yeah, tell us about it.
I was there because of the Governor DeSantis and what he's doing, and Ed Blum and what he's done against affirmative action. But then I met with some students, and I told them the kind of blatant anti-Semitic.
This is at FAMU, right?
Well, no, that did not happen.
Homecoming, and we have a chapter of National Action Network there. And I was saying the blatant anti-Semitism, anti-Jewish statements, and Islamophobia I'm seeing in some campuses around the country. If they were saying this about us blacks, we'd be marching. Why are we having laryngitis here when we challenge Jews, challenge Muslims to stand with us with George Floyd or whatever the case may be?
It's funny. We were going to ask you the same thing, Black bourgeoisie. Why are you having laryngitis now? Because people didn't have laryngitis. A lot of people had laryngitis when our ancestors went through this very same thing. So why aren't you speaking up? Instead, you're speaking up on the side of an oppressing nation, and he still calls himself a civil rights leader. That's amazing to me. That this clown, Al Sharpton. Go ahead.
We all know they lie all the time. No, Joe Scarborough always do this thing. Like, I'll talk to my friends about this. You know they lying, right? So he said, Al Sharpton said, I went to these kids and I looked them right in their face and I told them, you guys are being anti-Semitic. Fam, I will bet this fucking channel that did not happen. This man Al Sharpton is in the street talking to nobody. He's in air-conditioned studios with a bunch of people with generational wealth that was ill-gotten. He's in rooms in conversation with colonizers. Al Sharpton haven't had a conversation with an ordinary black person in 35 years at least. This idea that he sold, that he went to some students like, I told them the truth. That did not happen. I won't even fucking justify that with a response. It's so absurd to believe that happened. Anyway, let's continue. I want to hear more. That's so absurd.
All right, here we go.
may be, you cannot have a sliding morality. Either you are morally outraged, period, or you're not. Which is why I stood up with when the Israeli attacks happened, and a lot of people said, "Well, wait a minute, let's see what happens." What do you mean, let's see what happens? They killed 1,300 people, women, children beheaded. What am I waiting for?
Beheaded.
And then later I can disagree with Netanyahu, which I do disagree with. One has nothing to do with the other. You don't have the moral standing to stand for yourself if you don't stand for others. And some of this is not disagreeing with Netanyahu policy to say kill the Jews. This is not about whether you agree or not with what the settlements are, which all of us have different opinions. To say you're going after Jews or to say that Muslims ought to go see Allah earlier. This is an outrage, and people that are not Jewish and not Muslim need to stand up and.
I mean, and we've been really straight here. I know I have. I don't want to speak for anybody else, but I believe we need to fiercely defend Israel's right to protect themselves. There's 15 million Jews worldwide. There's not a safe Jew in the world today. Israel created because 6 million Jews slaughtered during the Holocaust. And laryngitis is a great word. And where is that happening right now, Mike? I just got back from LA. Let me tell you, Hollywood, like if an acorn falls from it.
Now, here's where the establishment pretends like they don't have dozens and dozens, if not hundreds, of Hollywood people in their back pocket pushing this Israeli nonsense. This is where, Nick, they pretend like Hollywood has not spoken up in favor.
There's no way
Israel.
He's gonna sell that.
Yes, sir. Yes.
You know, I did a video covering this, so I'm actually interested in seeing what he's. But there's no way he's about to make this fucking argument.
Tree the wrong way. Then, actors will get out and speak about it, right? Writers will get out and speak about it. Suddenly, silence has fallen over Hollywood. Suddenly, people don't want to get political. They don't want to get political about babies being shot up in their cribs or burned in their cribs, or kids going to a music festival and facing just seriously killing squads reminiscent of the Nazis in Germany going
every time they go into the description, they have to be so adjective feel, like they overly describe every time they have to, because it's like they know that they are bullies and being brutal, so every time they have to always keep bringing up something in order to even it out. But go ahead.
You want to know why, CJ, that they have to go back to the Nazis? Because if they talk about modern atrocities, they will quote the United States and their leaders. Because the United States took over the mantle from Nazi Germany as the people who support genocide, support war crimes. So you got to go back to the story. Like, man, you guys are behaving like the Nazis. You can't say you behaving like Ronald Reagan in Central America and South America, where they killed hundreds of thousands and tortured millions to place a ton of socialists and communists in Operation Condor. You know what I mean? You can't say, oh, man, you just like George W. Bush and the people who slaughtered the people in Iraq. So they got to go back way back to Nazi Germany, so they can't bring up anything modern that doesn't indict the people that they love. That's my theory, at least. But go ahead, CJ.
That's a good one. Let's continue. It's not over. They continue.
I do want to say this because the comment on the substance just real quick, because the idea that they're selling that Hollywood been silent on this is absurd. For one, I covered there's a blacklist going around where every single Hollywood celebrity is getting blacklisted if they do speak out for the Palestinians. Did Joe Scarborough bring up that? Right? He don't bring up the blacklist of people who've been blacklisted for standing for Palestinians, because that shows that Hollywood is standing up for Israel. Also, there's a document signed by 300 celebrities, the biggest celebrities in Hollywood. I made a hot spot about this, where they condemned Hamas. They stated how Israel had the right to defend themselves. And this is coming from Hollywood. And anyone who's not saying this is getting blacklisted on the spot. So this entire segment is fake news. This entire segment will get us demonetized. Like everything Joe Scarborough said, he's saying the sky is red, essentially, with everything. Just blatant lies. But I'll let him continue because I know we got a lot to cover. I'll let him continue.
Silence in Hollywood.
Part of it, I think, is in the coverage. And it begins on day one, 2 weeks ago, when 1,400 people were slaughtered right outside the Gaza
by the way,
Strip
just real quick,
by Palestinians.
just real quick. I'm gonna do a segment on this later because you know how they keep mentioning this. There've been a lot of reporting. The Gray Zone has done great reporting on this as well. And you gotta know, I have waited until there have been multiple sources and multiple people speak out on this before reporting on this. At this point, there's been so much report on this, I had to say something, right? Where there are people that was at the scene, including Israelis, that are testifying that Israel shot and killed their own soldiers, their own people. There was Israel that was shelling houses to conflate the death count. There was many people that they thought was Hamas that they killed that was actually Jewish settlers. There was a ton of this going on. So here's the headline. I'll pass right back to the video. Israeli forces shot their own civilians. Kibbutz survivor says. And they're in the Gray Zone. This is another report. So I'm not just taking one source on this, guys, because this is serious, right? Here's another one. How Israel likely killed its own settlers on October 7th, the Gray Zone. So there's a lot of testimonies, evidence, and incidents that showcase Israeli fingerprints all over the killing and burning of settlers in Gaza. Now, what Hamas claims is that they didn't target civilians. They only target civilians with guns who threatened their soldiers. We will never know the reality of what happened until years later. But I am leaning to, at this point, everything they told us on October 7th is bullshit, CJ. I've seen a lot of crazy stuff, but I want to mention it now because you guys see they keep bringing up this 1,400 number. What is the source for that? This number has been disputed internationally, fam. Like, people keep asking, what's the evidence? Because there are people that now there was a Harrods investigation. I'm mad because they got it paywalled. It's a paywalled article, but they did investigate. They said that they think that Israel is inflating the numbers. It's more around like 700 to 800 dead, which is still a tragedy, but that's a far cry from 1,400. So I'm not saying that nothing didn't happen, but my position right now, I don't know what happened on October 7th, but everything Israeli said, I am putting in scrutiny. I do not believe it. I don't believe the numbers. I don't believe the baby's been have beheaded, already been debunked. There already been too much stuff been debunked. We would know in a few years, but my position right now, everything they said happened on October 7th, I don't believe. But go ahead, CJ.
Yeah, so they just kind of now go into, again, I call this the emotional propaganda because they're not at all going into the detail of what Joe Biden is going to roll out. They're just trying to pull at your emotions, whether it's the anger or whether it's pulling at your heartstrings, and which they're going to get to in just a second. It's crazy how they try to pull at different emotions in the same segment, from anger to outrage to your heart. So watch this.
And they came to kill Israelis. No, they didn't. They came to kill Jews. That's why Hamas is in business, to kill Jews, not Israelis. In Atlanta, there's a Center for Communicable Diseases where the government spends a lot of money studying diseases. Anti-Semitism is the oldest disease we live with, and we live with it each and every day. And studying it in this day and age, it's grown explosively. On college campuses, Mimi, everywhere, you wonder, how did they get into college? How did they, with these beliefs, how did they get into college?
Because the presidents of the college can't even.
Are they really this amazed? Is the ruling class is really this amazed because it's large, Nick? It's not like they can say, oh, this is fringe. This is not fringe. They can't say it's fringe, Nick, because it is tens of thousands of people in the streets worldwide. We're talking about 1 million people protesting this past weekend. The weekend before that, more than that. They lost the narrative and they don't understand what to do at this point. Do they really think they're going to propagandize people who are in the streets? Those people are the most well-informed. That's why they're on the streets, because they're most well-informed on this issue. You're not going to propagandize those people. But let's get back to the video.
condemn it? Did you see how long it took?
5 tries at Harvard.
At Harvard.
5 tries.
5 tries at Harvard to say raping teenage girls and shooting kids at concerts and burning babies.
You see how he has to keep coming back to this description like this?
5 tries.
Mike mentioned Mimi. Joining us now, District Attorney for.
Here goes the emotional part. You know how much of a sellout to do you got to do this? Watch this.
New York's Westchester County, Mimi Rocha. And Mimi, you announced that you will not
I know her.
run for re-election in 2024, and you cited.
She's the one who said that
Hamas
Bernie
was
Sanders
one of the reasons.
and his supporters make his skin crawl. Just to
Yes.
let you guys know. I know exactly what this is, but let's continue.
So listen to this is where now they're going from anger and outrage to this protest to now, okay, if that didn't get you, let's try some emotional. Let's try some hitting you in your heartstrings right here.
This is probably brutal.
Mike mentioned Mimi. Joining us now, District Attorney for New York's Westchester County, Mimi Rocha. And Mimi, you announced that you will not run for re-election in 2024, and you cited the Israel-Hamas war as one of the reasons. You wrote in part this: as I approached the decision whether to run for a second term, my thoughts have been occupied in recent weeks by the terrorist attack on Israel and the aftermath, which has profoundly and personally impacted me in ways I did not expect.
Quick question, just
can
quick.
you tell us more about this decision and that?
So around 800 to 14,000 people died in Israel, which is tragic. But why is there not this kind of emotional appeal to the fact that 70,000 Americans die each year because they don't have health care? You guys see the gross lack of priorities of liberals, right? Which make her emotional reaction seem so fake and disgusting. You are weaponizing your emotions to promote a genocide, not to give people health care. Because I guess I weaponize my emotions too, right? Because I strongly advocate for my people and giving people healthcare so tens of thousands don't die. But you see what they weaponize their emotions for? But sorry, let's go ahead. Let's continue.
Yeah, it's terrible.
That factor in your decision.
Absolutely. This was a very hard decision. It's a hard decision to step away from public service. Yeah. But what happened on October 7th, that massacre, has brought up a feeling in me, and I know I speak for so many Jewish people and non-Jewish people who have just been shocked, frankly, at the level of anti-Semitism that I knew was there, but to see it rise up above the surface the way that it has in this country. My father, not some distant relative, my father escaped the Nazis and the pogroms in 1940. Okay, so I am here.
This is the equivalent to a black person talking about what our ancestors went through civil rights, through Jim Crow, in order to sell Joe Biden. It is completely despicable to say your father was the one who went through some atrocities or something, and then now you're trying to use that to sell this. Just despicable. Nick, go ahead.
Yeah, like you said, CJ, I'll just double down what you said. These are the most despicable people in politics. We just showed you an Auschwitz survivor, and we play many Holocaust survivors who speak out against Zionism because they see the same thing. Her biggest regret is that her ancestors wasn't doing it in the first place. Like, that's the only conclusion you can come to. This is disgusting. Let's continue. Like, this is very hard to get through, but you get these are important to see because you guys have to see the psychology of these people. These are the people that Emma Vigeland view as superior to Fox News. Do you guys see how ridiculous that is when you actually see this? Right? But let's continue.
Sure. Because he was one of the lucky ones. And so many of us see what is happening now. And I understand now how the Holocaust happened. But what's different now is, first of all, we have allies.
Because, Nick, what they're doing is they're taking the exact phrasing or concepts that the Palestinians should be saying and applying it to themselves. Now they're talking about this is a genocide against them, the 14th. That's what I heard them call it. Oh, the Rabbi Smully called it that in a segment one time that I saw on Fox News. Like they are taking the language that the oppressed it should be using, and then they're using it just like she does right here is just despicable. But this is a settler colonial perspective.
Have people who are willing to speak out for us. And I thank you for that, Rev. And to all of you who are shining a light on this. And we have people in government who are there to protect us. And I need to find a way to be able to use my voice in this time in that way. And I've been the kind of
So, Nick, she said, fighting crime, damn that, Nick. Damn that. Okay? I am now going to be super Israel defender. Okay? That's what
Captain
she said.
Genocide.
Now I have a calling to come out and do this. It is complete. But Nick, understand, it is such a normal way of thinking in the United States, because you have to understand this is what we thought in the beginning when the United States took over the indigenous and genocide of the indigenous population. If you go back and look at old sort of movies like pre I Love Lucy, even in I Love Lucy, you can there's episodes where they're talking about being afraid of Indians. They're gonna come and scalp you. They're telling stories as if the Indians are the aggressors.
Yeah,
it's the same concept. It's the same concept.
Absolutely.
Why are you killing me? I'm innocent. What do you mean you innocent? This is our land. That you fucking kid. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
You being here makes you not innocent. You being a colonial settler in these settlements makes you not innocent. It's such a thing they don't understand.
It's
somebody else did the dirty job. I'm just here taking advantage. That makes me okay. No, it does not. But let's continue.
That I wanted to be. I think I've made the change I wanted to make, lasting change, but also served with integrity. And running for re-election while you're a sitting DA, it wouldn't allow me to be the kind of prosecutor I know to be, which is to keep politics out of it. It's something we talk about on this show all the time, right? How do we keep outside influence and politics out of the criminal justice system, right? Trump influencing DOJ. That's something we talk about all the time. I have managed to keep outside influence away from my decisions. That's how I know to be a prosecutor. And so I feel really good about what I've done and what we have accomplished in the office. And I think it's lasting.
So congratulating. And like, you guys know, I make fun of myself on this show all the time. Like, you know what I mean? To me, it's funny. It keep you humble. You guys see how disgusting and self-congratulating these PMC motherfuckers are? I feel so good, but the decision I make, I made the sacrifice to get you. What the fuck up?
What are you talking about, lady?
Insufferable. I don't have any intelligent political thing to say about that. To be honest, there's no political breakdown there. I'm just saying she's insufferable. Like the self-congratulation liberal, man. I don't know how people fucking stand these people. I legitimately rather be around a redneck, dude. I sold cars. I'd rather be around a redneck motherfucker than these people. And that's not a political statement. That's just my personal fucking preference. These people make my skin crawl, bro. To take her own fucking phrase. But let's continue.
Never again to allow itself to slide into such barbarism. What we see now in the attacks on...
So if you see now, because I think she wrote this article, but look at the title, The Global War on the Jews. So now I don't understand why is the Israeli lobby is so powerful, Nick. It's so powerful. They're getting all media apparatus to go with a certain narrative that the uprising, the outrage against what's happening, the genocide happening to Palestinians is a war against Jews. That's what they've gotten everybody to sort of pitch. Like, don't believe your eyes. Just go with this narrative that we're telling people is the explanation. And that's what they've decided to run with to combat what's going on. They're just going to turn up the rhetoric in media, Nick, about anti-Semitism.
Jews is how that slide began. Before there was Chancellor Hitler in 1933, there were roving bands of brown shirts inflicting political and anti-Semitic violence on the streets of Germany. They too often went unchecked by police, prosecutors, and politicians who didn't understand the menace, sympathized with the offenders. Does that sound familiar? On college campuses, or merely felt overwhelmed by the scale of the danger. Yes. Hitler gained power in part because the German state could no longer maintain its monopoly on violence in defense of democratic values.
Being on the side of the Palestinian struggle is the same thing as being on the side as Hitler, Nick.
Yep. If you don't support the bombing of kids, if you don't support the bombing of kids and the use of white phosphorus on civilian areas, I guess you're the same as Hitler now, including the Holocaust survivors. You're Hitler now too. If you spoke out against this, and I'll put this comment here where it's just a simple comment. This is batshit crazy. Do you guys now see? I know you guys are my audience. This is for the new people. Now, do you guys see why I say the United States is the most propagandized country in the world? You guys think any other country has media crazier than this? You guys think North Korea and China and Russia media is crazier than this? I watched RT. I watched Russian media. The idea that this is somehow better than anything now Russia and Venezuela, anywhere else, is absurd. The United States is the most propagandized country in the world, and it's not even fucking close. I don't have to add any commentary to this. I think you guys are smart enough to see why this is craziness that have been broadcast on liberal news. Go ahead, CJ.
Yeah, and just to kind of, but because I'm gonna tie another part of this, another receipt.
CJ, you mind if I share something real quick?
Quick. Go ahead, share yours, and then I'll share a different receipt.
I wanted to put this in somewhere, but it's not even worth the full segment. But you know how they keep quoting the Hamas charter? They're like, the Hamas charter says that they want to kill all Jews. Now, to be honest with you guys, I never read the Hamas charter because my position always was, it's not my right to dictate how the Palestinians resist. So I honestly didn't care what it said. But after seeing people say it over and over again, the Hamas charter says that we're going to kill Jews. The Hamas charter says this. I'm like, even though I haven't read it, something tells me they're lying. So I looked into it, literally for 1 second, and I found this. I trust Combate, a mutual of mine. They do a lot of great reporting. So this is from, you can check this as well. This is from Hamas charter in 2017. And I'm going to read it, and I want you guys to think whether this sounds anything like what they've been summing up on every single corporate news channel, every single independent news channel, apparently, as well. Where they say Hamas charter said they want to kill Jews. This is from 2017. Hamas affirms that its conflict is with the Zionist project, not with the Jews because of their religion. What did they just tell you on Morning Joe? Why do they got a YouTube channel? Why do they still got a Facebook channel? This is rank disinformation. I didn't care what it said, CJ, because I'm not here to dictate how Hamas resists, period. But I looked at stuff, I'm like, of course they lied. I didn't read it. Of course they lied. Yeah. Of course they did. Now here's another one. Hamas does not wage a struggle against the Jews because they are Jewish, but wage a struggle against Zionists who occupy Palestine. Hamas rejects the persecution of any human being or the undermining of his or her rights on nationalist, religious, or sectarian grounds. Hamas considers the establishment of a fully sovereign and independent Palestinian state with Jerusalem as its capital along the lines of the 4th of June, 1964, with the return of that's their ask at the end. That's the demand. With the return of the refugees and the displaced to their homes from which they was expelled. To me, that demand is very rational. What they say here is completely counter to what everyone said, including independent media, about Hamas. And this is where they got it from. This is the source that they use. So you guys can look it up. I just want to interject that because you guys see how different that is than how everybody sums this up in the West. But they want me to condemn Hamas. They want to condemn Hamas based on what, CJ? Shit they made up about them?
Pretty much.
Every group in the history of humanity that ever was formed have outliers that do bad things in the name of their group, right? Everyone. So why you don't make your conclusion on the group based on that, and based on what their overall chapter, what the premise, and what they're fighting for is. So as an independent thinker, especially as someone who's oppositional to the West in general, I admit it. Everything the West told me, I'm like, I don't believe that's true. I didn't read the Hamas charter, but I knew when they said they want to kill Jews, I knew it wasn't true.